Republicans on a national stage for 35, 40 years. Joe Biden, Joe Biden, he made friends 35, 40 years because he was in the Senate. You talk to people who work with Hillary Clinton in the Senate, they had a lot of good things to say about Hillary Clinton. Republicans like, Trent Lott, and a lot of other conservatives. But Biden was there for a very long time. And you ask people like Lindsey Graham about Joe Biden, and he starts tearing up and says he may be one of the finest men that God ever created. That's a guy who's hard to vilify. Now, Eddie, I want you to take a look at Kellyanne Conway and something she said back in March to Yamiche. Take a look.
But if they're, I'd like to know who they are. But hold on, you can't just say that and not name them. Tell us who it was. Come up here and tell us who it was. I'd like to know because I'll go inside.
Right now. What is your message to those staffers?
No, I'd like to know.
Rather than having them name, why
that's been alleged. No, Yamiche, excuse me.
So is that wrong if it happened?
I'm not dealing in hypotheticals. Of course it's wrong. But you can't just make an accusation and not tell us who it is. Who is it?
You're saying, of course it's wrong.
Yamiche, if you want to argue, I'm going to argue about standing away from each other and washing our hands and everything.
But just
tell us who it is.
You're telling those staffers, of course it's wrong to use the word.
Tell us. I think
you understand how these conversations go.
No, I don't know. I don't know how these conversations go. And that's highly offensive. So you should tell us all who it is. I'd like to know who it is. I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals. I'm married to an Asian. I mean, I'm not engaging in hypotheticals. My kids are, partly. Yes, I'm married to an Asian American. My kids are 25% Filipino.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're also obsessed. So I thought you knew.
About the president using that.
But you're saying that using that term
excuse
is wrong.
me. Of course it is. But who is it, Yamiche? Who is it? Now you're engaging. I'm trying to be here to help you help America understand how to slow the spread. And you're shouting at me in a way about something that somebody allegedly said to somebody else. And I'm asking, who was it? Why don't we go to the source? I certainly didn't say it. I don't believe it. So why don't we go to the source and tell them that's very hurtful and unhelpful for what we're all trying to do.
So it's COVID. It's this. By the way, it's a disease without question. Has more names than any disease in history. I can name Kung Flu. I can name 19 different versions of names.
So Kellyanne said that was a highly offensive name. It is wrong. She's deeply offended because it would be insulting to her own family. She wants to go to the source. Kellyanne is the president. It's the president who said that. And I love how she's shocked and stunned and deeply saddened, just like she was with the CBS reporter who she got very angry with when the CBS reporter asked about coronavirus not being contained, got very angry, asked if you're a doctor, and said it is contained. Of course, here we are several months after that, and 120,000 Americans are dead, a lot of them senior citizens. But, Eddie, here you have the president still spitting out racist trash at rallies, despite the fact he finds himself now in an America where he's on the wrong side, it seems, of just about every major issue. On the pandemic and wearing masks, it's a 75-25 split. He's going with the 25. He's against the 75. On the marches, it's a 75-25 split. He's on the 25 side. On the marches, 75% of Americans think it's wholly justified. Immigration. He's gone to Arizona on the wall. He's on the wrong side on a 75-25 split. Gallup said highest number of Americans ever support immigration, 75%, and say it is important. Those numbers have actually gone up under Donald Trump, who has actually done more to show Americans the latent racism and the latent bigotry that not only black Americans, but Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, every group that has been discriminated against. It seems that Donald Trump has inadvertently shined the brightest of lights on that racism. And if you believe what the polls say, the overwhelming majority of Americans are offended by the views Donald Trump has on race, and offended that the views that have unfortunately been around this country for far too long.
You know, Joe, as we've been talking about what he spoke about in Tulsa, I put on my professor hat. You know, when you get a paper from a student and you can't quite figure out what the hell the thesis is, and so you have to work hard to figure out what the elements are. And there are two elements that I heard in this speech that they're fragments that we can pull out. One, of course, is exactly what you just identified, and that is his fear-mongering. We saw it over and over again. We saw the racist appeals or descriptions of COVID-19. We saw the invocation of the old playbook with the forgotten Americans. We saw the notion of the radical left, and they're going to destroy the country. And then we heard the other thread, and that is the Democrats are going to raise your taxes. They're going to destroy America, the radical left, AOC, Representative Omar, and the like. So what we got is, I think, a couple of things. We got evasion around the devastation of the pandemic, evasion around 45 million unemployed, evasion around the racial crisis in the country, and then we got desperation, how he's going to play fear and resentments along with greed and selfishness, and then he ended with that desperate plea. No matter what you think of Donald Trump, you know you're going to have to vote for me because these people are going to destroy America. That was the message I got, and as a professor, I wrote on the paper a big D-, and then I circled it and wrote "See me."